people. But it's okay, we still start our meeting. And today we have a workshop. But originally we have two speakers. The first one is Jeremy Greenway, and the second one is Kim Saunders. But unfortunately, Jeremy Greenway has some problem of his body. Yeah, he has some health problem today, so he cannot come here tonight. However, we find some TED Talk which will be very interesting, maybe more interesting than German. So we can enjoy the TED Talk later. So by starting our meeting, let's welcome Timmy to bring guessing word games.
Hi.
Hi.
So before our speech, and we will proceed interesting game. Yes, but it is a little different from before. So okay, I will divide you into two groups, and you will have competition with others. Okay. You have to assign. You remember 3 people. You have to assign 3 people and what people have to pick up the paper, and there will be a vocabulary on it. And the other 2 people have to describe this vocabulary to let the first people guess it. No? No? You don't know? Okay. If you maybe Abby and Vincent and Sean pick up a paper, but he can see this paper's answer, and they can see this vocabulary.
I cannot see, they can see.
Yes, and they can describe this vocabulary in any words, but not the answer. Today, Sean gets it, and if he get the answer, and you win. This one. Okay?
So it will be faster than
how long because just
What?
3 members in a group.
Yeah, you group assign 3 people.
Okay, just
Okay? Okay? Okay. And you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, and you 5. Okay? And round 1. Round 1. You discuss who you want to assign. Okay?
Okay. So we go to pick one paper.
Yes.
Right now.
Joking.
No. Team, I pick.
How about yeah? Okay.
And I cannot see, right?
And you have to see this. See. Yeah.
Why not you? I don't know. I like tea.
You have vocabulary. No, they can say any word. You assign them, so they have
We
to
assign it.
assign. Not them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
it's your paper.
Okay.
So they know the answer.
But he don't know the answer. So, and you have 10 no, not me. Seconds. You have 5 seconds, and you can use any words to describe this vocabulary. Today the Sean guessing. No?
5 seconds.
Yeah.
For each one.
You can guess fast. You can say anything. Okay. Round 1.
This is the animal that is in these walls around you. It's on the wall. The animal is on the wall. Here.
Okay. The answer is.
Bird.
Yes.
Yay!
我不是给你吃那个吗？
Very.
我白痴。
Joby.
my god.
Joby. You are our team.
It's kind of bird, right?
Yes.
你白痴。
I don't know that word.
Penguin 啊。Penguin.
Okay.
当然是海盗。
Assign 3 people.
3 people. Alright.
Next time. Ina, Joel, and Steve. And who want to pick up the paper? You?
Okay.
So we can also get.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Sit here. Oh.
Oh.
So if our group gets the right
Oh my
answer,
God. Very.
You.
we can decide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 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 Go.
It's a celebrity and it's a singer, but it is not. He was not. The reason he
Michael Jackson.
knew that. Yes.
Wow.
Are you cheating?
No, I'm not cheating. Okay. You. Just one. 3.
This one. So 3 people.
So all the time,
Different.
all of us together.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
You ask question.
Okay. And one more question.
Okay. Okay. What?
Pick one. Nora. Just pick one.
Okay. 1. Go.
Somebody is good at something, we call this person is
Professional.
Yeah.
Expert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Now we can, everybody can guess.
Wow.
Okay. Loudly, okay. Okay. Go.
You do something before you eat your dinner. And it's a person who do cook bread.
No.
Muslim.
The person is in a church.
Right.
Missionary. Pray what?
What?
God. No. The person
Prayer.
It's a person.
Oh, you got it. Prayer.
Prayer. Do the
Hey, we got it.
Now we are the B team.
It's our team member.
Come. And
You get it.
guess.
I guess what was next?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
just
that's right.
Oh.
Jing, we cannot guess, right? Both of us.
Yes, we cannot guess.
Can we guess?
We can.
Yes.
Or both of us can guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Try to do. Sorry. Hey, ready? Go.
So it's time for life when you were small.
Is it a period?
Childhood when
Yes.
Great.
Come.
Not people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go.
Try it. no cheating.
A little difficult. Go.
It's a panther.
Picasso.
Get it? Cheating. Okay.
It's not fair.
Okay.
Do we have any awards to win?
No. Okay, go.
Vincent. Okay.
Impressive stick. I'm on me.
Ready? Go.
The best one NBA player of
Germany.
Yeah!
No more celebrities. Come on, Leo.
It's a boring game. No, it's exciting.
You're jealous.
It's not fair.
Okay, you change the rule. Okay?
Everyone,
Now,
Change the point.
just one person can guess it.
One
Aside the person. Just one.
Also,
Now,
first thing.
yes, yes.
Assign one person.
Yes, yes. Okay, understand?
Let me go.
Okay. The best one, okay? The best one.
Ah,
Just choose one. Best one.
Best one. Oh
Yes.
Okay?
Are you sure she's the best one?
So,
Who? Say first.
Only one for this one.
what?
No. You go later. And you.
Oh,
哦，两个对战，
Yeah. Yeah.
两个对战啊。
we have to explain them.
Yeah.
So, who is the representative?
Here.
This one or this one?
This
one.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's also a celebrity.
It's the director.
Yeah.
Oh!
Okay.
Oh, why you are girlfriend?
Try.
No.
Maybe you guess.
Yeah. And who guess? Who describe? And who guess?
Who guess?
Then-
The kids. Okay, I know.
Okay.
Oh my god.
What's this? Okay.
Okay. Who guess?
Jockey.
Okay.
This is
Go.
a type of shoes that you wear
Nike.
in home.
Slipper. Hey. Nice.
Yeah, you got points, right?
You got a point.
You got points. They cheat, right?
They violate the rules. Just another. Unfair.
Not fair. Let's go to watch it.
Okay, the last one. Okay.
It's a lady's underwear on the top. Bra.
Yeah.
Our representative is.
Yay! So the prize, the group D wins. So this game is end, and we welcome Abby.
You introduce yourself.
going to see, to watch film, TED Talk. So please imagine, what do you want to do if you are above 20 years old? And what kind of things you thought you have to do before 20 years old or 30 years old? Think about it. Understand? No?
Again, please.
What do you want to do if you are above 20 years old? Meaning you want to do, you think you have to do something before 20 years old or before 30 years old. You can make a goal or something.
Before 20 years old and before the age of before at the age of 90 and the age of 30.
Maybe you want to travel around the world before 20 years old, or you have some dreams.
It's after 20 or before 20?
Before 20 and before 30. 2 questions. Okay.
So why you want to do before 20 and why you want to do before 30?
Later you will see. Okay. Now just think about it and let's see why 30 is not the new 20. Okay?
Mấy người đó gần tuổi.
When I was in my 20s, I saw my very first psychotherapy client. I was a PhD student in clinical psychology at Berkeley. She was a 26-year-old woman named Alex. Now, Alex walked into her first session wearing jeans and a big slouchy top, and she dropped onto the couch in my office and kicked off her flats and told me she was there to talk about guy problems. Now, when I heard this, I was so relieved. My classmate got an arsonist for her first client. And I got a 20-something who wanted to talk about boys. This I thought I could handle. But I didn't handle it. With the funny stories that Alex would bring to session, it was easy for me just to nod my head while we kicked the can down the road. 30's the new 20, Alex would say. And as far as I could tell, she was right. Work happened later, marriage happened later, kids happened later, even death happened later. 20-somethings like Alex and I had nothing but time. But before long, my supervisor pushed me to push Alex about her love life. I pushed back. I said, sure, she's dating down. She's sleeping with a knucklehead. But it's not like she's going to marry the guy. And then my supervisor said, not yet, but she might marry the next one. Besides, the best time to work on Alex's marriage is before she has one. That's what psychologists call an aha moment. That was the moment I realized 30's not the new 20. Yes, people settle down later than they used to, but that didn't make Alex's 20s a developmental downtime. That made Alex's 20s a developmental sweet spot, and we were sitting there blowing it. That was when I realized that this sort of benign neglect was a real problem, and it had real consequences. Not just for Alex and her love life, but for the careers and the families and the futures of 20-somethings everywhere. There are 50 million 20-somethings in the United States right now. We're talking about 15% of the population, or 100% if you consider that no one's getting through adulthood without going through their 20s first. Raise your hand if you're in your 20s. I really want to see some 20-somethings here. Okay, yeah, that's awesome. If you work with 20-somethings, you love a 20-something, you're losing sleep over 20-somethings, I want to see, okay, awesome, 20-somethings really matter. So I specialize in 20-somethings because I believe that every single one of those 50 million 20-somethings deserves to know what psychologists, sociologists, neurologists, and fertility specialists already know. That claiming your 20s is one of the simplest, yet most transformative things you can do for work, for love, for your happiness, maybe even for the world. This is not my opinion. These are the facts. We know that 80% of life's most defining moments take place by age 35. That means that 8 out of 10 of the decisions and experiences and aha moments that make your life what it is will have happened by your mid-30s. People who are over 40, don't panic. This crowd is going to be fine, I think. We know that the first 10 years of a career has an exponential impact on how much money you're going to earn. We know that more than half of Americans are married or are living with or dating their future partner by 30. We know that the brain caps off its second and last growth spurt in your 20s as it rewires itself for adulthood, which means that whatever it is you want to change about yourself, now is the time to change it. We know that personality changes more during your 20s than at any other time in life. And we know that female fertility peaks at age 28, and things get tricky after age 35. So your 20s are the time to educate yourself about your body and your options. So when we think about child development, we all know that the first 5 years are a critical period for language and attachment in the brain. It's a time when your ordinary day-to-day life has an inordinate impact on who you will become. But what we hear less about is that there's such a thing as adult development, and our 20s are that critical period of adult development. But this isn't what 20-somethings are hearing. Newspapers talk about the changing timetable of adulthood. Researchers call the 20s an extended adolescence. Journalists coin silly nicknames for 20-somethings like twixters and cadults. It's true. As a culture, we have trivialized what is actually the defining decade of adulthood. Leonard Bernstein said that to achieve great things, you need a plan and not quite enough time. Isn't that true? So what do you think happens when you pat a 20-something on the head and you say you have 10 extra years to start your life? Nothing happens. You have robbed that person of his urgency and ambition, and absolutely nothing happens. And then every day, smart, interesting 20-somethings like you, or like your sons and daughters, come into my office and say things like this. I know my boyfriend's no good for me, but this relationship doesn't count. I'm just killing time. Or they say, everybody says as long as I get started on a career by the time I'm 30, I'll be fine. But then it starts to sound like this. My 20s are almost over and I have nothing to show for myself. I had a better resume the day after I graduated from college. And then it starts to sound like this. Dating in my 20s was like musical chairs. Everybody was running around and having fun. But then sometime around 30, it was like the music turned off and everybody started sitting down. I didn't want to be the only one left standing up, so sometimes I think I married my husband because he was the closest chair to me at 30. Where are the 20-somethings here? Do not do that. Okay, now that sounds a little flip, but make no mistake, the stakes are very high. When a lot has been pushed to your 30s, there is enormous 30-something pressure to jumpstart a career, pick a city, partner up, and have 2 or 3 kids in a much shorter period of time. Many of these things are incompatible, and as research is just starting to show, simply harder and more stressful to do all at once in our 30s. The post-millennial midlife crisis isn't buying a red sports car. It's realizing you can't have that career you now want. It's realizing you can't have that child you now want, or you can't give your child a sibling. Too many 30-somethings and 40-somethings look at themselves and at me sitting across the room and say about their 20s, What was I doing? What was I thinking? I want to change what 20-somethings are doing and thinking. Here's a story about how that can go. It's a story about a woman named Emma. At 25, Emma came to my office because she was, in her words, having an identity crisis. She said she thought she might like to work in art or entertainment, but she hadn't decided yet, so she'd spent the last few years waiting tables instead. Because it was cheaper, she lived with a boyfriend who displayed his temper more than his ambition. And as hard as her 20s were, her early life had been even harder. She often cried in our sessions, but then would collect herself by saying, "You can't pick your family, but you can pick your friends." Well, one day, Emma comes in and she hangs her head in her lap and she sobbed for most of the hour. She'd just bought a new address book and she'd spent the morning filling in her many contacts, but then she'd been left staring at that empty blank that comes after the words, "In case of emergency, please call." She was nearly hysterical when she looked at me and said, "Who's going to be there for me if I get in a car wreck? Who's going to take care of me if I have cancer?" Now, in that moment, it took everything I had not to say, "I will." But what Emma needed wasn't some therapist who really, really cared. Emma needed a better life, and I knew this was her chance. I had learned too much since I first worked with Alex to just sit there while Emma's defining decade went parading by. So over the next weeks and months, I told Emma 3 things that every 20-something, male or female, deserves to hear. First, I told Emma to forget about having an identity crisis and get some identity capital. By get identity capital, I mean do something that adds value to who you are. Do something that's an investment in who you might want to be next. I didn't know the future of Emma's career, and no one knows the future of work, but I do know this: identity capital begets identity capital. So now is the time for that cross-country job, that internship, that startup you want to try. I'm not discounting 20-something exploration here, but I am discounting exploration that's not supposed to count. Which, by the way, is not exploration, that's procrastination. I told Emma to explore work and make it count. Second, I told Emma that the urban tribe is overrated. Best friends are great for giving rides to the airport, but 20-somethings who huddle together with like-minded peers limit who they know, what they know, how they think, how they speak, and where they work. That new piece of capital, that new person to date almost always comes from outside the inner circle. New things come from what are called our weak ties, our friends of friends of friends. So yes, half of 20-somethings are underemployed, but half aren't, and weak ties are how you get yourself into that group. Half of new jobs are never posted, so reaching out to your neighbor's boss is how you get that unposted job. It's not cheating, it's the science of how information spreads. Last but not least, Emma believed that you can't pick your family, but you can pick your friends. Now this was true for her growing up, but as a 20-something soon, Emma would pick her family when she partnered with someone and created a family of her own. I told Emma the time to start picking your now. Now you may be thinking that 30 is actually a better time to settle down than 20 or even 25, and I agree with you. But grabbing whoever you're living with or sleeping with when everyone on Facebook starts walking down the aisle is not progress. The best time to work on your marriage is before you have one, and that means being as intentional with love as you are with work. Picking your family is about consciously choosing who and what you want, rather than just making it work or killing time with whoever happens to be choosing you. So what happened to Emma? Well, we went through that address book, and she found an old roommate's cousin who worked at an art museum in another state. That weak tie helped her get a job there. That job offer gave her the reason to leave that live-in boyfriend. Now 5 years later, she's a special events planner for museums. She's married to a man she mindfully chose. She loves her new career, she loves her new family, and she sent me a card that said, "Now the emergency contact blanks don't seem big enough." Now Emma's story made that sound easy, but that's what I love about working with 20-somethings. They are so easy to help. 20-somethings are like airplanes just leaving LAX, bound for somewhere west. Right after takeoff, a slight change in course is the difference between landing in Alaska or Fiji. Likewise, at 21 or 25 or even 29, one good conversation, one good break, one good TED Talk can have an enormous effect across years and even generations to come. So here's an idea we're spreading to every 20-something you know. It's as simple as what I learned to say to Alex. It's what I now have the privilege of saying to 20-somethings like Emma every single day. 30 is not the new 20, so claim your adulthood, get some identity capital, use your weak ties, pick your family. Don't be defined by what you didn't know or didn't do. You're deciding your life right now. Thank you.
Okay, so did you get that? No? So there are 3 points, very important. Do something you can talk about yourself. Make new friends. And you can do new things, meet new people, do them familiar with, and you can pick your partner now for your marriage or something. So, is there any different thoughts before and after you see this movie about film? Let's think about it. So let's divide it into 3 groups. Okay, so you 4 a group, and Jenny, Joe, Steve a group, Ina, Kiki, and Jimmy a group are in a group. So please write out your opinions on your paper sheet, then discuss about your opinions after seeing this film, and choose one representative to share with everybody. Okay, this group, your representative.
Ina!
Tell us your opinions.
Although the speaker put emphasis on the period between 20 and 30, but I think the main point she mentioned is about you got the best energy and optimism, so you have to seize the chance. And because 20-somethings, they got the most energy, and they're more optimistic about their future than 30-somethings and 40-somethings. So the speaker mentioned that you have to seize this period and do whatever you want and choose you really want to choose. But I think if you are about 30 or 40 years old, then you are optimistic about your future, you have your own thoughts, and you are energetic, then I don't think it's late to chase your future. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Another group. Okay, Tom.
Okay. We agree part of disagree about that. We should not just dating with boys and girls, which one we just like it. We should try to find our true love, our soulmate in our 20s. Then we won't just come to 30s, then marry the one who is now our true love. But we disagree about that. 20s is, we don't think this one is such crucial. We still can make change, we still can be different, although we are 50s, 60s, or 70s, even 100s. Yeah, that's our point.
Okay, thank you. And the last representative who is going to. Okay, Joe. Yay.
Wow, often things. I think we have brave to do anything. Because we are always saying change, but do you think something special you really want to do, or you really want to change? So the importance is that you really your mind. If your mind is in a safe region and to a stable life, maybe it's right for yourself, but you are losing the chance to learn something new, something special, and something interesting. Surrounding the safest region. Yes. Okay.
Okay, let's take 5 minutes break and go back to the classroom. Yep. Okay.
And we invite our temporary team to deliver his speech. And his speech is about the characteristic of successful people, right? Maybe sometimes you will see some people on magazine or TV, and they are very charming, or they have many ability, or and have many leadership. And if you would start think that and why these successful and can stay on the stage and expect for their ability, why characteristic they have, you will start to think, right? And through Kim's speech, I hope you can inspire you and help you in the future. Yes, and let's welcome our teacher, Kim Sanders.
I teach from this classroom every Monday morning, so I'm very familiar with this classroom. Let me tell you just a little bit first about me. You said you were going to introduce me, and I was curious how you would introduce me because I wondered how much you knew about me. I think that's important to let you understand a little of who I am. I came to Taiwan in 1990. Probably before many of you were born. I was sent here as a missionary for my church. And I'm sure you all know my church because you've seen it, even if you've never been there or talked to anybody. We're the church. That's not important. We are the church that, and I'll tell you about this later in my talk, actually. We're the church that rides bicycles. Where's the helmets? You see them dressed like me. Okay? I'm not required to dress like this anymore. But I do feel it's important to dress like this when I'm making a speech. So that's part of the reason why I'm dressed like this tonight. So I came to Taiwan for 2 years as a missionary, which is the amount of time we are asked to serve if we choose to do so. And after 2 years, I went back to America. When I was in America, I studied at Brigham Young University. It's a private university. It has about 32,000 students, so much bigger than your university. I graduated with a double major. I graduated with Chinese and Asian Studies. And is there anybody here who's a Chinese major? Probably not, because you're all interested in English. But those that I have met in Taiwan that study Chinese, I think I've read more of the Chinese classics than most of them have. I do enjoy the Chinese language a great deal. Okay, and I also had a major in Asian Studies. Now the reason I took a major in Asian Studies is because it was only 3 classes more to get a double major than to get a major and minor. So I figured I might as well just get the double major. While I was studying at Brigham Young University, I met a beautiful young girl from Hualien. She was in America studying at this university as well. She was studying in the accounting department, and if you're ever interested in going abroad to study accounting for a master's, this university happens to have the #1 accounting program in America. And so she had to work very hard. But if you graduate from there with a master's, you're guaranteed a very good job. Guaranteed. They are still employing people all over the world, and those of you who do have the Chinese ability as well, also opens you up to even greater possibilities. Although I know that being an accountant in Taiwan isn't really the greatest job. You work very hard for a low pay. But like I said, if you get a master's, you put in the education time, you can get a great degree, and you can get a great job in America. After being in Taiwan a few years, I went back to school and got my master's. I got a master's in education, and upon completing my master's, I came out to Donghua University. I have a friend who's a professor here, and he knew I finished up my master's, and he says, you should apply to Donghua. I think they need teachers right now. So I came out here in 2005, and I've been teaching out here ever since. Okay, now, let me first say, I should have said this first, I'm very grateful for this opportunity to come and speak to you. I wondered if it was going to happen. I was very excited when the opportunity came, but we had some schedule conflicts we had to work out. And we were able to work them out, and so I'm grateful that I can come here and spend some time with you. And hopefully, what I have to share with you will be beneficial for both of us, that we'll feel like it was definitely worth coming for this time. As I said, I want to share some things that I've learned in life from my own personal experience and from mentors. Vincent here, he's already told me he's a PhD student. And for any of you who also may be graduate students, you know that's one of the things you do, is you find a mentor. Oftentimes they may call it your advising professor or something else. But you find someone in life who can help you miss some of the pitfalls. And I've had a great many mentors in my life who have helped lead me to the success I've had. And a lot of the ideas I hope to share with you tonight, I also feel like don't necessarily have to be used professionally. There are also things that can be used in your personal life to make you more successful as well. So with that as an introduction, let's get started into this. I told you already that I was a missionary for my church. Just so you know, I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And a great deal of the people who have influenced me in life are members and leaders of my church. Especially when I came to Taiwan, I have had many opportunities to serve in leadership positions in the church. And it's given me the opportunity to meet many great men and great women. And so they've helped influence me in my life. Now, in our church, there is a very strong emphasis placed on the family. In fact, family and God are generally placed above work in importance. We believe that you have your first responsibility actually is to God, and then your second responsibility is to your family. Your third responsibility would be to your job. Now, many of you may hear that and think, well, that's great, you know, I can just say, I have a family outing I got to go to, I can't be at work today. No, that's not what it means. In our church, we have a saying, no worldly success can compensate for failure in the home. Which means that it doesn't matter how successful you are at work, or at schooling, or whatever you choose to do, if your family is a failure, then you are a failure. So we do put a lot of emphasis on family. This is something that I'm sure many of you are familiar with as well, because the Chinese culture puts a lot of emphasis on family. In fact, I watched a video this morning of a man from China who went to England to school. And he's someone who just recently joined our church, and that was the thing that attracted him to the church, is he said, when I saw them, they asked me, do you think you'll be able to see your family after you die? And he says, I thought about how much importance my family wishes I could be here with them all the time, but here I am in England going to school. And so I thought, wow, that's a very deep question. I should want to learn more about this church, because I want to learn more about why they put an emphasis on family. Okay? Now, going back to this idea of family. You know, we just said God, family, then work, right? But we also believe that one of the best ways, not important, okay, we also believe that one of the best ways to serve God is to seek for excellence in our work. That's better. It's nice. Then I don't have to deal with it. Okay, we also believe that one of the best ways to serve God is to serve our family. We also believe that one of the best ways to serve our family is to work hard. Okay? Now, I am someone that works very hard. That is part of the reason why we had conflicts in getting this time arranged, why it took such a long time to nail this time down. I generally work about 80 hours a week. Now, you're probably thinking, Donghua University, how do you work 80 hours a week? I don't work 80 hours a week out here. Okay, I teach my 16 hours a week of classes here at the university. I also have prep time that I have to come out here. I normally tell, and I have some people in here I know that have been in my class before, I tell my students I normally come to the school at 6 in the morning. And it's true, I normally am here at 6 o'clock in the morning because I like to get all my prep done before I have classes that start at 8. When I leave the university, whether it's the days that I stay till 5 or the days I leave at noon, I also go home and help my wife, who is currently running 2 businesses. Okay, she has a language school and an Anxinban. Okay, there's no other way to say that. So she has that she takes care of, and I help out there. About a year ago, we started investing into a company that I don't know if many of you know about it, because I don't think a lot of people talk about this company with students, but I do know they do sell some of the products here in the bookstore, because I was surprised to see them last week. doTERRA essential oils, and normally I spend about 15 to 20 hours a week with doTERRA. Okay. I also have an 800 ping garden that I work in. I like to work in the dirt. My wife doesn't really like me to work in the dirt. When we were dating, I was a landscaper. That's what I did to help pay my way through college. And she always hated it because I would come home very dirty. Grass blown all over me, dirt in my hair and stuff. I just thought it was great because I was out in the sun all day doing things that were fun. So I enjoyed it. And I also probably spend about 15 hours a week with church responsibilities. Just for example, last weekend I did have to travel to Taidong, and this is the third time I've been to Taidong in the last month. I had to go down there to interview someone who was hoping to be baptized. So I take the train down, which is 2.5 hours. I go to the meetings down there. I interview as many people as need to be interviewed, and then I take the train back and make it normally a one-day thing. I also do things here in town. So between all that, I normally end up working about, as I said, 80 hours a week. Now, what normally happens if you live this kind of lifestyle is you often get consumed by your work or distracted by your work. It's very easy to do this because when you're at work, you know, and you do something good, or your students like you, know, they're telling you, oh, you're a great teacher, you know, and you start to feel good about yourself, and so you think, maybe I'll spend a little more time at work. So you do that. When I go serve in the church, right now I have a position that's covers about half of Taiwan, my church responsibility. And I have the privilege, I'm not wearing it tonight, I have the privilege of being able to wear the name tag like the missionaries wear it, which to me is a great honor. But as I walk around, you know, everywhere I go, everyone's like, oh, President Saunders, it's so good to see you. We're going to cook lunch for you today, you know. And so it's easy to get caught up in this, that everyone thinks you are a very important person. And when you do, if you allow that to happen, you then tend to forget about your family, okay? You know, and sometimes people say, you know, that's what I work, honey. I work 60 hours a week so I can provide for the family and take care of the family and do a better job for the family. And really, your wife and your kids wished you had some more time for them. So it's important to, as I say, the first thing that I want to stress to you is that the things that matter most are the things that last the longest. Okay, this is a very important principle, I think, because in today's job market, the average person works 6 or 7 jobs in his adult profession. You normally don't stay with the same company from the time you graduate from school to the time you retire. Unless you go and take one of those government exams and become a government worker, then you can do it, you know, forever. But most people don't, okay? And so your job should not be the most important thing. Now, my kids know I'm very busy. My wife knows I'm very busy. So then the thing comes to, how do you make that time important? How do you make them understand that they're the most important thing? And because of that, I said I was going to talk about this, I don't normally turn my phone off. There are very, very few meetings that I actually will turn it to vibrate. But most of the time when the phone calls come, I will look at it to see who it's from. And then I will make the decision on whether it's important or not. And what makes it important? If it's from my kids, if it's from my wife. If it's from my kids or my wife, I always answer those first. I always call them back immediately. I know I've had students in my class when phone calls have come and seen me walk out of class to talk on the phone. Because those are the people who matter most. And I need to make sure that I let them understand that. Now, my oldest son is currently in America going to high school. He chose that path, and the thing I probably feel the most proudest about him being in America is that he still tells people he knows how much his father cares about him, because his father keeps track of him. He's not doing so well in a digital media class. And I have a friend who sometimes stops in on my son to check on him. And he asks, does your dad care that you're getting a bad grade in this digital media class because it's not important? He says, no, my dad cares about every grade. He lets me know. But I always follow it up with encouragement. So he feels okay with me telling him, you know, you bombed that test. You need to fix that grade. So you have to keep your family members the most important in your life, no matter what you choose to do. And it's not always easy to do, but I find successful people do that. And the reason I say that, I will give you an example of a man who was a very, very successful CEO of a big company. He was meeting with someone about a merger to bring two big businesses together. And they talked and all through the day. And they didn't quite have things hammered out. And the CEO of the other company asked him, would it be okay if we get together tonight and spend some more time talking about it? Now this was a multi-million-dollar deal. Obviously, if he gets this deal to go through, he's going to make lots and lots of money. These are the kind of deals that you could do once in your lifetime and walk away and not have to worry about working again. But he told the man, and he said he was worried when he said it. He said, I'm kind of worried if I told him if he wouldn't think I was taking this deal serious enough. But he told him, he says, every Monday night my family gets together and we have family night. Now they're not here, but I will be going back to my hotel tonight and I will call them and we will do it over the phone. This was before they had Skype and these other ways to do it. And that ended up changing the other CEO's opinion. Now it didn't change it the way you thought it would. What he did is he says, I'm impressed that you take your family first. Let's sign the papers right now and just call the deal good. And so they signed the papers and he did the business and they didn't have to meet the next day. So people respect that when they know that your family is the most important thing. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing I think you need to understand to be successful is sometimes we call it the circle of one, which means there is only one person in this life you can control. Now you may have difference of opinions because some of you are still young enough that you think your parents control your life too much. But in reality, the only person you can control is yourself. What you do on the job totally determines what you become. Some people, when things aren't going their way, they like to blame their boss. I work so hard, but the boss, he just never sees what I'm doing. He doesn't understand how much I put into this. It's easy to say, but it's not true. Okay? You can't control the people who work on the same team as you. And many of you have probably had to work on team projects here at the university, and you may sometimes find out, my partner really just doesn't want to do anything. I've had, because I like to do team partner stuff for a lot of my classes, I've had students come find me and say, teacher, can I change to a different partner? We just have a problem. And I said, well, what is it? Well, we just have a problem. We just can't work together. You know, and they don't really explain the problem to me, and I just say, well, remember, you chose your partner, you're stuck. You figure it out. The next assignment, you know when it's due, right? And I send them on their way. Because it's important you learn to work with them. So even if your partner doesn't really have that desire, you still control what you choose to do on this project, whether you choose to put in the effort. Now, maybe your partner won't do very much, but you can still get him to do a little, okay? The other people you cannot control when you become higher up in the business. You cannot control the people below you, okay? So when you understand that the only person you can control is you, you change the whole thought process about how you do it. Because you want to work hard to impress the people above you. You want to work hard so the people below you will want to work hard. And if you work hard, generally the people below you work hard too. Steve Jobs, and I know everyone knows who Steve Jobs is. Steve Jobs has never been known as someone that works well with people. He was someone who was very creative and he liked to do his own thing. But because Steve Jobs had such a love for what he did, people below him worked hard too. Because they were impressed by how much effort he put into everything he did. And that's what helped bring the company into what it is today. I would almost say, and I don't know him as well, but I would almost say the new CEO they have now is probably just as smart as Steve Jobs was. I just think he doesn't have the same passion for it that Steve Jobs had. And that's what is maybe hurting Apple a little bit, if you can say it's hurting, because they still make billions of dollars every year. But they're not the same company they were when Steve Jobs was there. Okay? So, when you do that, other people will want to follow you. When you control everything in your life and understand that that's all you can control, you will find ways to be successful. The third thing I would like to share with you, and if I talk too long, just raise your hand, because this is something I tell my students too. I grew up, in my church you get lots of opportunities to speak. I started speaking when I was about this big. When I first started speaking, I didn't like it. I didn't like standing in front of people. And oftentimes I would sit on the stage and hold my hand up there and watch it shake. It was like that until I was about 20 years old. But now I tell people the place I feel most comfortable is standing at the pulpit. So, like I said, if I start going too long, please let me know, because I could probably talk to you all night. But the third thing I want to share with you is the idea of PMA. PMA just basically means a positive mental attitude. This was something I learned at a very young age. One of my leaders in the church, who I still look up to highly today, he would always walk around and say to us, PMA, just remember PMA. It was always pushing PMA, you know. And because of this group of young boys had a lot of really fun times together. We always just kind of believed everything was going to work out. Even when we were on activities being pulled over by policemen for doing things we probably shouldn't have been doing, we still felt like things are going to be okay because he helped us understand this. Now, let me share an example with you. As I told you, I've been in Taiwan now for, I don't know if I did mention the actual number of years. I've been in Taiwan for 21 years. Shortly after I came back to Taiwan the second time, that was with my wife, I bought a brand new car. We bought a car because my wife was pregnant and she had a miscarriage, and we assumed it was probably the motorcycle, so we decided we were going to get a car in case she gets pregnant again. So we bought a brand new car. I love this car. They don't even make it anymore, but occasionally you still see some out there. It was a Lancer Virage, silver, beautiful radio in it, and if you see me on campus, you know I play my radio loud. I just really love this car. Now, one morning, or I should say, let's go back to the night before. I was coming home one night and I parked it across the street. And then I walked into the house. The next morning, my doorbell rang at 5 a.m. My uncle, who lives next door. My wife has lots of family in Hualien, so there's relatives everywhere. But my uncle, who lives next door, came over and rang our doorbell. And I'm the early riser in our family, so I went and got the doorbell. He said something to me over the intercom system, and I didn't understand everything because he normally only speaks to me in Taiwanese. And my Chinese is pretty good, but my Taiwanese isn't the greatest, and it wasn't the greatest back then for sure. But I understood enough to know that there was a problem with my car. So I walked down the stairs, and I walked out with him, and he's still jabbering with me, and I look across the street, and there's my car in the neighbor's front room. It is literally inside their living room. What had happened is a drunk driver had come down the road that night, hit my car so hard, he knocked it into the person's house, because the house was made out of sheet metal. So the sheet metal was lifted up, the car was inside the living room, and the drunk driver's bumper was on the floor, but the drunk driver drove away. He was still aware enough to be able to drive away. Now, my car was totaled. And part of the reason it was totaled was because I should have parked this way, but I parked this way. So when the guy hit my car, he hit the engine instead of the back of the car. So totally ruined my engine. So they told me I had to get a new car because this one would not be able to be driven again. Now, about a week or so later, I was talking to my mom on the phone. She said to me, I don't understand how you can be still so happy. If that happened to me, I'd be going crazy right now. I says, well, there's three things you need to understand. First, it's just a car. You know, you can always buy a new car. Now, cars are very expensive in Taiwan, and you know that. But it is still just a car. Number two, none of my family was in the car, so nobody got hurt. That's no big deal. You know, I'd have felt a lot worse if I'd have lost one of my kids or my wife. Okay? And number three, because cars are so expensive in Taiwan, the car company still bought it from me back, and I still got 5,000 US for it, which I would never get in America for a car that had been totaled. So I still got a good amount of money out of it. Okay, and we were able to take that money and turn it around and put it towards a new car. So, you can always look for the good things in life. And those people who tend to be positive are those people who normally tend to be more successful. Those people who sit around and complain about their job, number one, don't like their job, so they don't put an effort into it. And number two, everybody knows they don't like their job, so they don't see them as someone they want to advance in the company. So when you always seem to maintain a positive mental attitude, it doesn't matter whether you're selling a product, you're looking for a job, you're helping to grow an organization, you tend to find more success. These are the people who tend to be more successful, those who are positive. Okay, now, I mentioned with you that I am doing essential oils with my wife. It's technically my wife's company, and with the rules of Taiwan, how they are when we first came to Taiwan. Now they've changed and foreigners can own their own property and all that stuff, but when I first came it wasn't that way. So all almost everything in our house is in my wife's name. So people always say, you're the one that's at a disadvantage. You know, if she decides to divorce you, you got nothing. I say, well, I got her, and that's still good enough. So, so we're happy there. But with this doTERRA, because I'm already working my job, she's already working her business, we come to what is something that is very important for anybody who wants to be successful: planning. If you want to succeed in life, you need to plan to succeed. The most important thing we do for our business, this Essential Oils, is every Saturday night we sit down and take a 45-minute to an hour planning meeting. And what we do is we plan what we're going to do the next week for this business. Because it's a new business and we're still trying to get it to grow. We've currently got it in 3 countries. We're hoping to move into Malaysia in the next month or 2. So we're working on that aspect. We're also working on customers in China. But as we're trying to build this, it's very important for us, because we run a busy life, that we plan. Because it's very easy to, when you have your own company, to say, oh, you got to put in the hours. And if you get caught up with the idea of putting in the hours, then sometimes, you know, you're sitting there waiting for someone or a phone call. And so you walk back into your storage room, count the inventory again, okay, it's still there. You come back out and wait for a while, look at a couple books to learn a little bit, I better check the inventory again. And you're doing a bunch of work, but it's not the kind of work that's going to build your business. And so that's why this planning meeting is important. We talk about things like who we're going to talk with this week about oils, what times we're going to set aside to learn professionally ourselves. We talk about what kind of training meetings we're going to go to. Who do we need to call in our business to make sure they're going to these training meetings so that they'll have that desire to grow too. So this 45 minutes of work, I will tell you, because there are a couple weeks we've missed as we've started doing this planning. The weeks we do the 45 minutes planning, we accomplish a lot the next week. The weeks we miss the planning, we just kind of move through the thing and we tell ourselves we don't have time this week, we're so busy. In actuality, we have the same amount of time we always have. And everybody has that same amount of time. But you have to make sure you're planning your time so that you're doing the most productive things to build your income to be the person you want to be. Okay, so planning is very, very important. The 5th one, and I think this is going to be the last one I'm going to share with you, just because I know I'm probably taking up about as much time as you want. The 5th one is you have to have determination. And I'd like to share 2 quick stories with this one. The first one happened in World War II. Maybe some of you know of an island called Iwo Jima. On Iwo Jima, there was one of the worst fighting of World War II between the American soldiers and the Japanese. During this fighting, the American soldiers were pinned down by the Japanese. And what they needed very badly was to get a message to command that they needed an artillery strike. They could not do this because their radio had got broken in the shooting. And so they needed to have this message hand-delivered. So the company commander called over one of the privates and asked him to deliver this message. He says, I need you to take this message to the battalion commander, let him know where we need to have the artillery strike. And so the young soldier looked at him and said, I'll try my best. I'll try to get it done. And the commanding officer looked at him and says, no, you don't seem to understand. You need to get this message to the battalion commander. And again, the soldier, with a little bit more determination, looked at him and says, I'll do my best. At this time, the commanding officer began to get furious and began screaming at the young private. And in the end, he told him that this message is going to determine whether we live or die. I don't want you to try. I don't want you to do your best. I want you to deliver the message. And when this young soldier heard this, he stood up, he saluted his commanding officer, and he says, "I will deliver that message." And he took off. He did deliver the message. They got the artillery strike, and they were able to press forward, and they were able to survive. So, this idea of determination is very important. Now, you should be old enough that you know what Star Wars is because they've made 6 of these movies. If you follow the Star Wars series, you probably know they're going to make a 7th Star Wars movie here in another year or 2. They're going to start filming, I think, this summer. In the 2nd Star Wars movie, they introduced a character. This little green guy, Yoda, the Jedi Master. And even if you didn't see the 2nd one, you've probably seen him in some of the later Star Warses. In the 2nd movie, he's training Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker has decided he's going to go see this Jedi Master and learn to become a Jedi. When he's doing the training, he's standing there. His ship has crashed in the swamp, and he's trying to get this ship out. And he's using his Jedi powers, the Force, to try to lift it up. And it starts to come up. And then he feels it's too much stress, and it goes back down. And then it comes up, and then it goes back down. And then it comes up, and then it goes back down. And finally he sits down on a rock and says, "I can't do it. I've tried, I just can't do it." And Yoda gives him some of the greatest advice in all the world. He looks at him and says, very simply, do, actually we should do it with his voice, right? Do or do not. There is no try. Okay? And that is so important. If you're going to do something in life, you do it. You do your best. You give your all. There is no trying. You get nothing for trying. If you want to be successful, you can't go and say, I decided, I had a student a couple weeks ago went to Taidong and ran a triathlon. She told me, because I was going to be in Taidong that week, she says, "Why don't you come see me at the finish line?" I says, "When are you going to be there?" She says, "I'll probably be there about 3 or 4 o'clock." I says, "Well, if I'm available at that time, because I have some things I need to do there, I will stop and watch for you." I wasn't. In fact, I was busy till about 9 o'clock at night. And as I'm heading back to my hotel, I'm still seeing runners running by at 9 o'clock at night. Okay? If you attended something like this triathlon, and I'm not a runner, I don't run, I don't like that. But if you attend something like that, you can't run 3/4 of the way and say, "That was enough. Give me my prize." You have to finish. You have to be a finisher. Okay? That you get nothing for quitting. So remember to do or do not. There is no try. Now, I had a lot of other things that I could have shared with you. But like I said, I don't want to keep you too long. I know these are some of the things that will help you become more successful in life. And I hope that you will take them, and I hope you'll apply them to your lives, even while you're still here as university students, and in everything else you do in the rest of your life, and that you'll find the success that you hoped to always see in your life. That someday you will be able to, when it's all done, say, "I had no regrets. I gave it my all." Okay? Thank you again for your time, and I hope that this is something that's beneficial for you.
Okay, thanks. Kim give us a meaningful speech, and he gives us many ways to think how to be a successful person. I believe that this speech will inspire all of you, right? Yes, and hope you can think more about this. Yes. Thanks. And then we will have this